Police Service established, as well as an independent institutional confrontation between the National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission intermittently. Mr. Kavuludi had a lot of public exchanges with the Inspector General of Police under the current constitution. Understanding of the National Police Service and the Commission. The Commission has also their own interpretation of what their mandate is of the law. Is not the function of any state officer or any commission. It's not with the minister, it's not with the Inspector General, it's not with the commission. Is in two fronts. Either the courts of law, who have the legal mandate to interpret the law, to be the chief legal advisor of government institutions, government generally. That the committee doesn't have mandate to do what it is doing. Neither does it mean that the minister has no role in trying to, or different interpretations of mandate and role. On one hand, the National Police Service and the Inspector General are. On the other hand, the Commission is waiving the same constitution, but a different article, Article 246. Together, the first step would be for the Attorney General to assist as the chief advisor of government, including government institutions, public institutions. Changes that we continue to witness between the command of the National Police Service and the National Police Service Committee, they violate the Constitution for the reasons which I will explain. There are institutions which are critical institutions for our national security were involved in a public exchange of letters and press releases, discordance of institutions that are crucial for the security of our country is a violation of Chapter 6, especially the chapter dealing with our national security and the responsibilities visited on the organs of national security. Honorable Chair, with regard to the second part of your letter, which wanted to us to give information on, is our considered view that that recruitment. Why do I say so? Because, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the architecture of our national security in the Constitution, importantly also, the people of Kenya must have confidence in the institutions that are responsible. In other words, if you have a recruitment of this nature for officers to ignore communication from another, there is no greater erosion of public confidence in the organs, not in the public layer, so that we don't erode further the esteem institutions extensively, but not in public. I have engaged them in private. And in that role, I stepped in by calling both the Inspector General clear that what the two institutions and their leadership were engaged in is a violation of a tribunal for gross misconduct and undermining the Constitution, notwithstanding the merits that either erode the dignity and esteem of public offices, and they do not subject public offices which I serve is to professionalize all our national security institutions, depoliticize them. General is there. Other ways are there of arbitration and building consensus. So at the time when, Honorable Chair, parts of our country are facing serious threats to whatever differences within established procedures, and any differences should not be processed in the public realm. Police service commanders or commissioners to make sure that they sit down and tidy up whatever needs to be tidied up, and never to bring that matter into the public space again. It's made even some parts of our country, many parts of our country, people are living in fear, people are living in uncertainty. We cannot afford this kind. Like the committee, the ministry has also requested the Honorable Attorney General to help us with legal opinion, because we respect institutions and public offices, and they not have asked for this legal opinion, and they chose to process a technical matter which they have no capacity or competence.
Thank you so much, CS, for that very elaborate answers. I heard you talking about the commission is actually having a meeting today. Yeah, and I hope it went, into the public. There were letters left back and forth. They can probably be able to address the media of the public jointly as a committee to order. CS, maybe before I give to my colleagues, because I think you did indicate very clearly, 245 4C. You're aware that there are some parties that are going to the court on the same, including probably if you go through the process and the court give interpretation, maybe it may give us a different direction on how we can go to address this. On employment, they have been even actually contesting the issue of recruitment of the police officers. The IG is contesting. On the other hand, the commission is claiming that it is their mandate and they have to reclaim their baby, it's their role. Because we should treat the genesis, the problem, because it has got a possibilities of reoccurring again. But having said that, you instructed this, it has just come to our attention, I don't know, maybe just for the purpose or on record, there is a clear process that guides the process of promotion of gazetted officers. There is approval of vacancies by the commission, request for waivers if there is any, approval of waivers by the commission, advertisement is given a fair play. Because the information even there in the public there could be a possibility of conflict of interest and even actually unfair play in terms of promotion.
Thank you for that explanation. But I think we need to go the full hog, because if you look at the Constitution and the IG against each other, and I do agree with you that we should not follow the secondly, my background is defense. In defense, there is that the minister might not have the long screwdriver to interfere what happens in that institution, but he gives that overall guidance and direction. A referee should actually be the guide to those institutions, because they are primarily providing the first line of security to Kenyans. That will not listen to them. But the spirit of the Constitution says that is the organization that embodies the... so for me, whereas I think you are very clear in your exposition to this committee these incidences even previously, as you rightly said, under Kabulundi and different IG. So there'll be different IGs and different constitution. I thank you.
I think first of all, CS, and from my own perspective, going by your explanation and understanding the function of the National Police Service Commission, and then, because ask yourself a very simple question: if the IG, it's not even if, the IG and the two DIGs are so independently, the National Police Service Commission, without the three, cannot transact business. So where was the problem? Terms overlap. The chairman has made it very clear, going by the process of promoting executive officers. There is a function. And that is why the drafters of the Constitution are very clear that the membership of the Commission has to sit down in a meeting which is legal as a commission and transact their business. So I thought this is uncalled for. It should not be there in the first place. I totally agree with this. That is my.
First of all, I want to thank the Minister for coming out very clearly. I wish it came about 2-3 weeks ago. To me, and I'm very sure what you have done, the Minister, you have given a very clear direction. People should listen. But as somebody said here, we need to also, wherever there's a problem, especially in terms of policy. But I'm very happy with what you told us. And we hope this will stop our officers in
so checks, and in particular sub-article 3 against what is in at C brings me to the conclusion that there is nothing requiring interpretation here. To the contrary, Chair, we have a situation where the Inspector General is encroaching the mandate of the national lot of noise. It happened around me in a rally normally one time with not very good consequences. The duty to recruit, the duty to promote, the duty to transfer, the duty to deal with disciplinary control in your previous life. What we have is a situation where an Inspector General is encroaching into the constitutional mandate of an independent commission. And I wanted, Chair, we had situations where people were being promoted based on who you know. We had Makondes in the police service, people being recruited today and they are top there, removing from there. Despite the law saying within 3 years you must move, you can't move. Because the Inspector General is encroaching this mandate, promoted or not. And Chair, I wanted to say that is the reason as to why we created the commission. That there will be people, including the Inspector, is that if we looked at the genesis of the commission, check also Article 245 sub-article 4, it says the Cabinet Secretary can direct the Inspector General under the law. So that we should not, lead the Cabinet Secretary to think that he can direct this commission, even on matters policy. He can't. What is the reason? You can direct on policy. The commission go and regularize. There is nothing to regularize here. If there is any promotion which was done by the Inspector General, the annullities in law, they must be annulled. And actions of government are not to be determined by them in a boardroom. So that we say go and harmonize where you could be clashing. Mandates are conferred by the Constitution in my respectful view, Chair, are very clear. There is nothing for deliberation. Those discussions going on now within the Commission, if they concern sanitary.
Thank you, Chair. I think to some extent I want to concur. Yeah, with the report then was in terms of issues of recruitment, transfers, and promotions. And the Commission came in so that we can be able to bring some sanity where we don't just the issue of promotions as was happening in this particular case. One of the issues we need to look at is the issue of the quorum, because within the quorum of the National Police Service Commission, we are told that the quorum is 5, and 2 of the 8 is the Commission. Probably that is something we need to look at, so that we also operationalize and the Commission is able to move on properly. And CS, with all due respect, you said you thought like we have done as a committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, the CS, for your presentation. Chair, I think my colleagues have articulated the issue of the Commission in the previous commissions, because I'm sure there are ways how they are resolving this issue. Maybe you can clarify that. Thank you very much.
Who have made their contributions on this subject. Chair, the Wazir reminded us about the issue of Kabul, that a human head was sent to him as a person in his cattle. So the reason why I'm reminding about that is that the issues which we are touching on is very, elections were approaching. There was somebody who sat next to Kaluma, and Kaluma didn't know he was an opponent until he found himself flat on the ground. The CS is not just a teacher of law and a lawyer. He's a law scholar. Kaluma was putting it in many words as somebody like senior members have called you here, is that they have confidence in you. That is why they didn't call those officers individually. And even the guidance which have been given by the members, if you think the IP is the problem, then I think you have this committee, you have the bar, and you have this committee behind you. So we just need to make the right decisions without relying on the courts for solutions. Make sure that we do the right things. Because as it would stand, it would mean that our meeting today would be premature if we are still waiting for another meeting elsewhere by the idea and the commissioners to bring a solution to this. Because in the last parliament, I remember many meetings with the National Police before this committee, and the answer to players' record never took place when members declined to proceed with the constitution, and we said that that commission will not be complete without the IG. I rest my case.
Given unto us, and it will be mean of me if I also don't tell this committee and the media around that the CS has been overwhelmed. The CS, you should take it as a red flag because if somebody who sits with another person in a commission comes out in public, the IG is part of it, or there has been fights in the boardrooms amongst them. Because before, which has always been done, should not be continued simply because it has always been done. When we met with the IG in this committee last time, he told us that the National Police 246 saying that he only knows where he is supposed to be, where the constitution favors him, and he has no business reading 246. That tells you that this is, they would stand and ignore the constitution and implement whatever comes from their mouth. It is about time that this comes to an end. Before even serving in that particular, rank, he is also getting another promotion. When there has been nepotism, there has been discrimination, you find that somebody has served for 10 years, 20 years in the same position, whereas those people 6 times. And we thought, when we interviewed him, we thought it was the beginning of the end of the discrimination in the National Police Service Commission. It will be so unfortunate if he will append his signature to such I was going to instigate your removal, but I want to withdraw officially. Because you have surpassed my expectation. You are indeed doing well, and the others should also follow suit. You are a good example. Thank you.
She was simply impatient. Answer. Because majority of the members were probably compliments, comments. Maybe one member was join us, can introduce herself.
Information out there is that the list that was provided by the IG for the people who are promoted. There were issues that are being raised by members. We hope and we need to put it across that regularizing should not be sanitized irregularity. That indeed, because the list is out there, and I think many of us will be looking. And if anything, I think we should be asking for the list. We should have the list that was provided by the IG. Then we start from there.
Chair, just to add on that.
Chair, I wanted to
You all like
request that maybe after this
maybe in camera. Depending on how fast you can execute this, because yeah, maybe because what actually members are saying is that probably even actually these vacancies were never declared by the commission. That is exactly what Kaluma was actually.
And appreciate and promise that we will do our best to improve on service delivery. I survived narrowly from removal process, which you know, the removal of public request is just a little more patience, because some of these things are quite complicated and cannot be resolved permanently instantly. That you know, the fact that she's saying she's thinking differently is a confirmation that she didn't have any ill motives. Chair, my problem as the Cabinet Secretary for the national security is not the merits of the legal arguments, as my brother, the member for of conduct that we saw last week, to continue. We are destroying our country. Unlike any other sector, the security sector is very institutional confrontation between two security agencies which are armed. So my discussion with even the independent commission, Honorable Karuma, I understand the constitution so well. I've read it many times. The independence does not include the independence to destroy national security. That's national police, by allowing them to run the budget and not allowing the office of the president to run their budget. So it's operational. Their operations, independent commissions and judges and the judiciary. That's where independence ends. Any organ of the country's government infrastructure is subordinate, does not include us getting our hands off them, even if they are destroying our national security, to have their own budget, and nobody should interfere. But anybody who threatens national security, then now the what we call the yeah, and I've said security sector, unlike any other sector, we cannot allow too much must step out of political influences and political involvement, unlike in the past, because this is an armed sector. You can push this country to the wrong direction. And I've given an example of what competition and juvenile maneuvers in this constitution. Because the same constitution that the members are citing is the same constitution that says all organs of national security are subordinate to civilian oversight. Chair, allow me to say this, because I'm generally also contributing, because I've captured the sentiments of the members, and I ask the Chair to take sides. The oath of office as minister demands that I remain impartial, and I apply my mind the most objective manner. So I have not the other. That would be against my oath of office. The specific provisions of the Constitution must be respected as far as possible. But at the back of our minds, I would want to ask members, even as you discharged your mandate, to reflect also on some of these issues, like, for example, must respect. But in terms of long-term national security policy, we need to ask ourselves whether we need to balance between the ability of the police to run its operations and deliver optimal national security. Why do I say so? If we can, justification is there, then how it's done in the National Police Service, the justification is there. But we might want, going forward, as we interpret the law and look to enable, so that we don't also tie police commanders' hands and demand too much from them. Let me say what I have in mind. The Inspector General of Police and the service commanders and that chain of command needs the law interpreted in such a way that they do not lose the room problem. For example, not every officer can go and command an operation against terror. Some are drunkard, and I'm talking from experience now. I've been minister for 7.5 months. Some wake up at 2 o'clock. There has been a raid, a cattle raid overnight, or a terror attack. The police commander or the OCS cannot be traced. Their phones are switched off. And this is an operation area. The service commanders would know this officer has these capabilities, these competencies, and make a recommendation. And then we ask ourselves, even 246 talks about the power to recruit. What is the recruitment? Yeah. So we have to be careful and put all these things together for the national interest, not to promote one institution against the other or undermine one institution against the other. So in armed organizations like the National Police Service, in operational matters, the commander must have some input in saying this officer can do well in urban crime matters. This other officer has this competence, this very unique competence that cannot be displayed in the papers and because it's an armed assignment. But on the other hand, the commission recruits, promotes. There is no possibility of a recommendation from the Inspector General, which is adopted by the Commission after being justified. So you can actually achieve both objectives, where to deliver optimum national security without undermining the authority of the Commission. So those are the synergies we are trying to, because even if we amend the law, even if we clarify the law, when there is bad faith and pettiness, and small maneuvers, small-mindedness among institutions, we will not achieve what we want to achieve. That was my pitch. Recruiting is not the civilian commissioners, it is the commission as, and nothing prevents them from understanding the unique way anything from anyone. I have told the IG, you're the commander of the National Police Service, submitting yourself to commander of the National Police Service. I have told the chairman of the commission, listening to what the positive input from, in my view, an objective input from service commanders is critical for optimum security delivery of our country. I agree with the member who talked about ego. It's just about egos. You know? Both the commission, the commanders, everybody thinks the only way people can know you are important. Mr. Chairman, if law and order breaks down, nobody will remember any other matter. They will say the government has failed. Foundational principles that inspire our constitutional democracy. Chair, we may have, now that we are a country that, because we need all of them. Then maybe I can also mention that a secure, environment is very serious action. So when you have these exchanges in the public, to you, and this is my personal view, based on my experience in this ministry for the last 7 years, violence for the protection of the public. The best practice, even as we subordinate to civilian leadership, you find a principal secretary for internal security, a principal secretary for defense, a minister for defense, a minister responsible for internal security. Why do we remove the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of Defense Forces from matters procurement? Yet they are dealing with the accounting officer for the police. It's so that when issues of oversight, malpractices arise, you don't expose the commander. Their request is we reduce for some, unless it is something that the subject matter is the police, so that we get off from the subject matter is the police, so that we get off from the names involved. You can imagine the chief of the defense forces being grilled over procuring the troops is diminished. So you bring in the PS, you bring in the minister, they take all those issues. The commander is work every day. The performance of the troops is optimal, and he has the confidence, the respect that is required. So some of these things like this, too much the too much public exposure that undermines their ability to command respect as commanders of armed institutions. We may want to think through for the future, maybe 50 years, 100 years to come, because we are not doing this because of the... So I've given a lot of examples from the defense side. Let me give other examples by way of analogy to explain why I think we need to rethink how the commission under the same chapter 15, called the Parliamentary Service Commission. It is chaired by the speaker I was referring us to, called the Judicial Service Commission. The chair is the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court. You are likely to have frictions which can undermine confidence in the judiciary to deliver justice and the rule of law. Oversight and subordination of the National Police Service to civilian authority, because that's what the Constitution says in Article 240, 239, 240. And commission, but without bringing friction with the commanders in the matter, in the manner in which I have given with the examples of Parliament and the judiciary, but that is something for the future, and process our differences in this very sensitive sector in a manner that does not erode public confidence in our security organs. Exchange of unpleasant, untidy derogatory messages of the National Police Service Commission is an affront and a dangerous attack on our constitutional order and on the and all the clarifications and the interactions and the whatever needs to be done should be done within established institutions and outside the public layer and chair regularization. You see, I was very careful when I met this gentleman. I was very careful because I tried to weigh my regularization doesn't mean. I didn't say what regularization mean. I just told them go and follow the law. They should follow the law. That's it. Go and follow the law. As to who recruits, go and understand the meaning of recruitment. As to whether the IG has any role, go and read the constitution, follow the law. So that future.
Thank you so much, the CS. You've really elaborated in depth. Serious. We should also be thinking probably about how to have the two acts harmonized so that these two institutions keep communicating each other of the country.
Yeah, let him go to the general.
Yeah. So, the chair, what is something so urgent? Or we let him go to the other? We must go. Do you want only
No,
for maximum 20 minutes?
No, I'll
Then
keep-
we leave the CS.
I'll keep the time, forgive me. What I expected as a layman, that we give a good example of PSC, Parliamentary Service Commission, and Judiciary Service Commission. I also expected him to give us an example, so that as we even think about it in future to tell us, maybe the commission of that structure. Number two, he talked about that we should leave some public officers in the
We should be thinking in the present how to harmonize the both acts. So CS on that matter, I think it's very clear to the public.
Yes.
So Kenyans out there can continue applying.
The same.
Very
You
clear.
know, the establishment, the National Police Service, to make sure that our officers do not engage in non-core duties. You don't want other duties which are necessary, but it should not be done by an officer. The officer work is to just make sure that they provide security to the people of Kenya. Approved. So the recruitment, from where I sit, was done in accordance with the law, within the procedures that we are having. But it's a legitimate exercise done in accordance with the law. The little matters that have, as the member for Elgeyo Marakwet has said, was our own mistake, because we went public with the guys as the Minister for Interior for these two institutions, for exposing our very, very strategic public embarrassment. I apologize.
So you can just move now, because still kind of two session, the general security of the country. 10 minutes spent to include, of course, the issue of Shabab, insurgencies in Lamu, in the coast, and the general now updates on the north. Matter that may be necessary and you feel
Is okay, largely, but that doesn't mean that we are incident free. We are not incident free, and I don't topmost and most existential threat to our country. Still, that threat is with us. We keep the country free from terror. We have had a number of setbacks in recent weeks in that front, and we are taking measures to bring the matter under control. It was even enhanced to 37 billion of the budget through of the budget program that doesn't interrupt we lease. It's just like the leasing of the cars that we have. So the equipment we have in mind are MRAPs, that is the mine resistance and so forth and so on, and other equipment, including personal protection equipment. So we've had some setbacks in recent weeks, but we expedite officer to the fire of a criminal, a bandit or a terrorist. So we are making progress there. The second threat is the threat of livestock rustling that has created the dangerous places where terrorists used to return to. We are left with a few pockets, and very soon we'll be gazetting 1 or 2 places, including we are still having incidents, but I want to assure the country we will defeat bandits, and we will stamp out this problem for good. Area with affirmative action programs on education, roads, water, hospitals, etc. And we are also establishing permanent security presence and abuse and trade in illicit and toxic alcoholic drinks and narcotic drugs, and it's a monumental national security threat. And if we are not careful, 10, 20, 30 years from today, this country is not engaged in economic activity and so forth and so on. So we have upscaled the war. We will sustain it. We are recommending legal amendments which will be affecting our populations. We have already done three regional conferences, one in Nakuru, one in Nyeri, another one in of climate change. For a long time, climate change was regarded as an environmental matter, an issue of food security. But we have now incorporated, we have 5 major national security threats. Is the emerging correcting cultural issues, including proscribed groups, gangs in urban areas that listening to, we've seen police stations being raided in Assemby and Wajir last 2 months. We have seen people being incited to ban tea picking machines in Bomet and Kericho completely. And any member of the national security organ, any officer, whether they are police officers, whether they are national government, is to be very firm with the enforcement, because what breeds this culture is when leaders, political leaders inside the public, who helped who psyched these citizens to go that far. Yet we are saying these members of the public actually appear to have, but the solution is not that violent resolution of disputes. And we will do it across the political divide. Kericho the same. The grievances around tea picking machines appear to be genuine.
So thank you so much. Because of time, I think I don't want to open discussion on this matter. It was just to brief for the state members for 5 minutes. Then we